it gives me genuine, absolute pleasure to introduce to you my friend, Mr. Monty Halls.
Mate, that was lovely. There's a great little story about Andy that, we used to do the dive shows together, and when Andy was starting off in the business, I said, oh, mate, come up, And Andy's got this sort of amazing career in explosive ordnance disposal, all that sort of stuff, so it was a slightly revered figure for me. And when he came up to I think it was the first dive show, I said, mate, you can stay in the hotel, no problem, and just put it on my room, because the dive show covers my room bill. So if you want a beer or something, just stick it on my room. And I came back, bottles of champagne on his table. Do you remember that? Bottles of champagne, it just put a lobster and things like that. So yeah, he worked it mightily. Now, I've got a bit of an eclectic talk for you right now, because the first thing I want to say is thank you for being here. Every rugby supporter, I know what you've done for me, and I appreciate it. In fact, it's a massive surprise that I'm here, quite frankly, with the game kicking off. But thank you for being here. And I am going to talk about the Galapagos, because that's the title of the talk. But it dawned on me that I had this sort of strange moment when I was out in the Galapagos. So I was like, how the hell did this happen? How did we end up on this beautiful set of islands as a family, filming this series for Channel 4 and telling this important story, blah, blah, blah? How on earth did all that happen? How did I end up here? So I'm going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to show numerous videos you'll be pleased to hear. Talk a little bit about sort of how we got there, a little bit about the past, a little bit about the Galapagos series, and a little bit about the future as well. And while we do that, we're going to go to lots of different places around the world. So to kick off, it was a kind of crazy few years going around the world, filming lots of series for the BBC, and also doing projects that were self-funded. They were kind of Corinthian ideas that you'd be like, why don't we go there? I hear it's fantastic. Let's put a crew together and go. And nowadays, I say to any young person here who's trying to get into this, or indeed older people as well, trying to get into going off on expeds and doing projects, it is easier now than it's ever been. Because of social media, because of crowdfunding, you find a decent project, you're off. So as a young lad, I was like, right, having just left the Marines, thought of all these places I wanted to go, put teams together, and off we went. And it was there's something gloriously innocent about the whole thing. And this was just a few of the projects. That was Vavo, the humpback whales. That was a series called Lost Worlds. I'm just going to show you a little bit of in a moment. We do get to diving in this about halfway through. We do get to diving, but some stuff, just obstacles I need to overcome before we get to diving. That was filming Great Barrier Reef out in Australia, and that's Rain Island behind us there, 26,000 green turtles, the largest green turtle rookery in the world. And that's a tiger shark that was eating a green turtle carcass, and turned around and thought, oh no, I have a little pop at the boat with a film crew on it, which was an inflatable boat, which became a deflatable boat. And so we had to leg it to that beach there, and followed by an entourage of very interested tiger sharks. And I asked the Australian cameraman who took that photograph, I said, how frightened were you when you took that photograph? And he said, mate, if I'd had a large lump of charcoal clutched between my butt cheeks when I took that photograph, I'd now be in possession of the largest diamond on earth. So there we are. He was a great guy. He was a classic Aussie. And when I met him, a tall, posh English pom called Monty. When I first met him at the start of filming, he shook my hand. He said, "G'day, mate." His name was Cam. "G'day, mate. My name's Cam. I'm working with you. But just a couple of rules that I live my life by. There's 2 states to be in: Queensland or drunk." That was his thing in life. So a lot of time doing this, like in front of the camera, and thinking, blimey, there must be a way to do this to actually produce these films and put the budgets together and put the crews together and organise it. Been doing it for long enough. But I'm just going to show you a quick video randomly of the Lost Worlds project. Anyone who thinks there's nowhere around the world where you can explore anymore, anyone who thinks there's nowhere left to go, well, Lost Worlds the idea was just go and find places people had never been before. So we did cave systems, we did mountain ranges, and we did all sorts of absurd things in the company of scientists. So this was the Lost Worlds thing in like 2 minutes, just shout out of idle interest. So, anyone who says the age of exploration is dead, nonsense. Of course it's nonsense. But there's nowhere, of course, like the marine environment, essentially, to celebrate that. What have we just seen? We've seen this extraordinary talk by Umberto, this amazing thing of a man who's pushed to the physiological limits of our species to explore worlds that, were beyond the imagination only 5, 10, 15 years ago. So it's still all going on out there, and obviously in terms of marine wildlife as well, we're only beginning to understand animals like this, the great white. This is False Bay, and at dawn there's a certain hour, the witching hour, when the great whites come up underneath. They can see the seals silhouetted, but the seals can't see them in the water. So they'll come up underneath them, and you've got about 45 minutes, and you tow a lure behind the boat, and the great whites hit the lure behind the boat. You'll get about 2 or 3 of them in 45 minutes. You have to sit with a long lens like that. You have to practice tantric clenching. You have to do everything required. Just be nice. Centralize your chakras. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Boom! This animal appears. Click, click, click. You take a shot of a seagull, a wave, everything except the animal itself. And in the end, there it was. Got the shot. That was this beautiful animal, gilded in the ruby light of an African dawn. There's the cliffs of False Bay in the background, suspended on glittering pillars of spray. The nictitating membrane closed over the eye. Best photograph I've ever taken in my life. And on the boat on the way home, I deleted it by accident. That was taken by the bloke sitting next to me. So there we go. And also, obviously, just understanding about some of the species we're beginning to encounter. The entire ecosystem of the ocean is altering. And things like the Humboldt squid are coming to the fore. They're adopting predatory niches previously occupied by the shark. So doing projects like that as well, heading off and trying to encounter these new species and understand them. And again, mainly in front of the camera, many putting the expedition together and taking it to a production company. Now, one of the things I learned quite early on in this whole thing, the whole thing of working in the world of diving, we're all divers here and we're all interested in the marine environment, is that you put together the best qualified team imaginable. This is a thing called the Shoals of Agulhas, 1,000 kilometers up the coast of Africa. The blood-warm waters of the Agulhas Current sweep down that coastline. And the cold water of the Benguela Current push into them. And every now and then you get sardines coming in, the world-famous sardine run. So we spoke to Land Rover and said, let's put together the best qualified team imaginable and find out about the sardine run. Why does it happen? Why do 18,000 dolphins know what's going on and all go to that point? Why do 5 species of whale turn up? 104 species of shark? We need to find out. So, incredible team. There's Doug Allen, filmed Frozen Planet, Blue Planet, all this stuff. Megan McCord, one of the best shark scientists in Africa. Land Rover gave us 10 Land Rovers to do this. We only had 2 boats. I still don't know why they gave us 10 Land Rovers, but an amazingly well-qualified team. But what do we know about diving? What do we really know about diving? Well, what we know is that no plan survives contact with the enemy, that you're entering quite a complicated environment. So this was one of the early launches, which as you can see is going well. Now, actually, that was just slightly down the coast for us, I have to be honest, slightly down the coast. But that was a moderately suboptimal situation. And there's the same launch. There you go, complexity plus time equals failure. We all know we operate in this complicated world of diving. You give anything a bit complicated, a bit of time, it will go wrong. And that's the same launch a few seconds later, which is more sort of suboptimal. Now, there's a great expression in diving. In fact, it's not in diving, it's from wingsuit flying. You know the old close proximity wingsuit flying, when they fly like that, and they're going that close to a cliff. If they go like that with their head, what did you say, mate? They're dead, basically, because they're going to the cliff. A guy called Jeb Corliss said this. Whenever you start an activity like diving, you have 2 jars, and one is full and one is empty. And one jar is luck, and the other one is experience. So when you do a dive, you take a bit of the luck out and you put it in the experience. Gradually, each time you dive, you take a bit of luck out and you put it in the experience jar and fill the experience jar up. Because sooner or later, you have no idea how full your luck jar is, and it will run out. At some point, your luck's going to run out, and you just need to hope your experience jar is full enough that you can deal with what happens. So there you go, nice little analogy. And so I just started thinking, we've been so lucky for so many years. We've had so many great projects. Why don't we put together a production company, and we'll go and tell these stories around the world. We'll go and tell these stories. We'll produce the whole thing. I don't want to rely on other people to do the safety and put it all together. We'll do it all ourselves. So we formed a company called Sea Dog Productions, and we formed it about 3 years ago. Any Sea Dog shareholders here, by the way? Right, well, the company's doing fantastically well. The company is doing well. It's doing well. And we just put it out as a crowdfunding thing. Crowdfunding, the most amazing bit of disruptive technology, means you can do anything. If you present a decent argument, there's a good rationale for doing it, nowadays you can raise the money. It's the most wonderful, empowering thing. And so 3 years ago, we formed Sea Dog Productions. So over the last 3 years, that's what we've been doing. We've been going around the world, making great films, meeting incredible characters. And so that's the birth of our story. That's the birth of the Galapagos story. But what I'm going to do is just show you a quick bit of the Sea Dog, what Sea Dog's all about, the stuff it's been up to over the last few years. And it's mainly centered around inspirational people doing amazing things. Now, what you're going to see, by the way, at the start of the thing is a guy, it's a bit downbeat, there's a guy whose baby is very, very sick, and he's just been told there's nothing that can be done. But there's a nice ending to that story, which you'll also see. And you'll see photos of old people, footage of old people meeting each other again. We did a series called Freedom Trails, where we reunited escaping prisoners of war from World War II with the people who'd helped them after 75 years. They hadn't seen each other. So escaping prisoners of war and resistance people, partisans and all that. But anyway, this is Sea Dog. This is what we've been up to for the last few years. This is the production company.
There is a sentence that is one of the worst sentences that you can ever hear. And it's 6 simple words. There's nothing we can do.
I'm walking in some big footsteps here. They didn't have crampons, and they didn't have this modern gear. And this would have been a real feat of endurance for them.
Every step uphill takes work. Loss of appetite, headaches, all these things that go with altitude. But if we make it to the top, yeah.
Leon power, strong power, Kilimanjaro.
There is something we can do. 6 similar but much, much better words. There is something we can do.
Seeing the lights of Spain meant so much. We didn't realise how deep it was inside us. What an experience it was.
"74 years ago since I saw you last. You helped me to safety. You're a wonderful, wonderful person."
I'm not one for singing and dancing, but those guys can rock it, for sure.
So we had 25 years of experience doing expeds and projects around the world, and we had a production company. So what were we going to do? Well, I'm president of the Galapagos Conservation Trust, and I thought, wow, Galapagos is a really important story to be told there. World Heritage Site for 40 years, since 1978, one of the first World Heritage Sites ever to be set up. This set of lava islands, 600 miles off the coast. Surely we should go out there and find out what's going on, tell the story out there. So I approached Channel 4 about it, and Channel 4 was like, yeah, nice. But they came up with 2 little hitches to the plan. And they were about this high, red hair, sociopaths, my little girls. Basically, they said, take your family out there. Obviously, your girls need to see the islands. But now, my little girls are around here somewhere. And people often ask me if I miss being in the Marines. Do I miss being a Royal Marine? And when I think, I live with 2 little people who love fighting, they love getting naked, They constantly destroy things. They're always up to mischief. Can't turn my back on them for a second. I live with 2 small, drunk Royal Marines, basically. So I don't miss the Marines at all. But this was the birth of the series. What I'm about to show you was the birth of the series. Because what you do is you do a taster, and you send it to the channel to say, look, this is what we think we're going to be doing. So this was the start of the Galapagos series, what I'm about to show you. And Channel 4 got this, and they said, right, we're on. We're good to go. So I'll just show you the tape. Now, it's very low res. I've only got a low res version of it. But, and it's slightly embarrassing at the start. This is all great material. All right. Come on, you boy.
I don't know very much about the Galapagos. I've read some stuff, seen some stuff on TV. I know they're very, very long way away.
We have a very nice life here in the UK, and the kids love it here, and we're going to uproot them from all that.
We've got a house, we've got animals, we've got our life here, and now I'm not quite sure how it would all work.
You know, I worry a little bit. We're 1,000 kilometres off the coast and a set of volcanic islands totally in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to take my kids and my wife there. We're going to go and live in a small fishing house. It's going to be hot. It's going to be a completely new culture. It's going to be crowded, stuffy, hard graft. In a way, I'm least worried about the kids. The Galapagos are at a pivotal moment in the island's history. The main reason is overpopulation. 20 years ago, the population was maybe 10,000 people. Now it's 30,000 people. Tourism has gone up to 200,000 people a year. There used to be 1 flight a week. Now there's 6 flights a day. The islands have to learn how to live with lots of people. So it's a hugely significant time. We want to inspire a generation. We want to create the next generation of biologists and conservationists in Galapagos. You're creating the stewards of the islands for the next generation and the generation after that, and that's really important.
As a family, we'll most look forward to experiencing the islands and exploring them and discovering the amount of amazing wildlife that's over there.
Why do you think it's called a green crab?
Because it's green.
Correct, and a crab. You're so brave. Well done, girl. For Isla and Molly, I'm taking them to a fairy tale enchanted kingdom. My main sense is one of anticipation of a fantastic adventure. I'm going to miss rugby. I'm definitely going to miss rugby. But aside from that, let's get on with it. So originally it was called Growing Up Galapagos, but we changed that to My Family in the Galapagos, and Forward said, yeah, right, let's do it. So let's look at the Galapagos. So this lump of islands, there's 13 islands of a habitable size, only 4 of which have got people on them. World Heritage Site since 1978, one of the most important places in scientific history. 1835, Charles Darwin visited. He was only there for 5 weeks. But in 1859, he published The Origin of Species, all based around everything he'd seen on these islands. And so super important place, you know, huge level of endemism there. The animals there you can't find anywhere else, a huge percentage of them. So a very significant place to visit. And for us divers as well, it's paradise, basically. It's a 300,000 square kilometre marine reserve, the 4th largest in the world. 440 fish species, 40 of which are found only in the Galapagos. And it truly is the last citadel of the shark on planet Earth, essentially. So I was beside myself at the prospect of going out there. I did think it was going to be this kind of a great experience, you know, in terms of not only immersing myself in the environment, this wonderful place, having been, you know, traveling for so long, but also obviously the opportunity to spend it with the kids. And how many dads get the opportunity to spend 3 months with their children, you know, solidly? Remind me of that comment later on. But I was really looking forward to that aspect of it in particular. And also the most important thing is seeing the islands through the eyes of the children. And that was very, very important. There's a little pitch invasion there. And here's one of them. That wasn't set up or anything, just happened. So seeing the islands through the eyes of the kids, I knew was going to be really, really significant and really important. And what we didn't actually want was a classic sort of nature documentary of here on the Galapagos Islands. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, obviously the guy's an icon and a legend. But actually, there's 18,000 people live on Santa Cruz, the island we were on. It's 30,000 people live in the Galapagos. When we went out, people were like, mates of ours were like, so you're going to gather driftwood and catch rainwater and eat iguanas? We're like, no, we're moving to a town 3 times the size of Dartmouth, where we live, you know. So, you know, we knew, I did have an image of it, that was going to be a production meeting, a classic production. That is an actual production meeting. And a bit, no, it's not twerking, is it? Oh my God. No flossing, stop flossing. Stop it. Right, thank you. I had this slightly sepia tinted view of what it was going to be like. Stop. I'll kick you off stage. This sepia tinted view, a chance to bond with my kids, you know, this wonderful experience and this gorgeous set of islands. Now, anyone who's got kids, particularly Ginga kids, will know that strawberry blonde will know that heading out to a set of equatorial islands in the height of summer, 600 miles offshore, is going to present a series of issues. So this was my image of what it was going to be like, and this was reality. So the only thing I can say at the end of it is that me and Tam are still married. That's, it was really tough for the girls because they had a film crew around them, but that's our film crew, basically. And they had all these adults kind of following them around perpetually. Here's Tam, by the way, wrangling. Any pieces to cameras you'll see, and you'll see some in a minute, and this integration with the environment, you actually have that many people filming 2 little ones, you know. But all of the crew were fantastic. They became the mates of the girls. They became good friends with the girls. And we had this is our director of photography. Hello, Moles. And this is our director of photography, Rich. And we said to the girls, so Moana, have you seen Moana? Of course you've seen Moana. No one pretend they haven't seen Moana. And we said, this is Maui. This is Maui from Moana. And Moles was like, oh, that's the actual Maui. And the crew became the friends of the girls. And that's why the girls started talking to the camera and suddenly started coming out with amazing things, you know, really poignant, powerful statements. Obviously, huge amounts of kit as well. Like I said, you're a long way offshore. Health and safety, not massive in Galapagos, in Ecuador. So we were constantly on the brink of a nervous breakdown with these two just heading off doing their own thing all the time. So in that respect, it was hard. And also, when I make a TV program, I like to look like an explorer. I like to have like trousers with the pockets there. I like to have a bit of stubble going on. But the girls had different ideas. The girls decided that this was the way they were going to explore the island. So I did explored the Galapagos with Elsa and Anna, basically. So Belle and Cinderella. Cinderella, sorry. But a wonderful experience. But interestingly, when the show went out, everyone said, oh, your girls are so well behaved, your children. Now, we were out there for 3 months. A Channel 4 hour is 48 minutes. So that's the best 48 minutes behavior of that particular month. So, but they're good as gold. The pair of them was good as gold. But, but to give you an example of reality, this is a beautiful volcano on Isabella, and we hiked 5 miles back and forth. Good effort, the 2 of them. It's 30 degrees Celsius. And when the show went out, we saw us hiking up the volcano, and then we were like, hey, a volcano, how beautiful. And the girls were like, wow, amazing. Then we went back down. And actually, it was carnage all the way up. It was apocalyptic all the way up. We were, all right, not the first bit. But happily, we managed to catch a little bit of footage of one of the little incidents. So that's what it looked like on camera, and this is reality.
We're on the side of a volcano, and Moles has done quite simply the most magnificent face plant into the path I've ever seen.
Oh, there we go. No plan survives contact with the enemy. Oh, hang on.
Distress, but it was utterly hilarious. So.
Right, here we go.
You're all right, girl.
Don't worry. I'm on it. Just talk amongst yourselves.
Right.
Don't go off to the rugby. Right, wait a minute. I do love the rugby. Right, hold on. Sorry, that was me moving it. Yeah. Right, let's try now.
The volcano. And Moles has just done, quite simply, the most magnificent face plant into the path I've ever seen. You were at full tilt, weren't you, Moles? And then suddenly you vanished in a big puff of dust. And you should never laugh at your child in distress, but it was utterly hilarious. So, you're right, girl. Right, we soldier on. We soldier on. Come on, girl, you little urchin. Ow! 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 Oh! Ow! Ow!
So there we go. Fair play to the girls that got stuck in, and one of the things I'm going to emphasize now, and we do start getting into the marine biology and the animals and all that in a moment, is we grossly underestimate what little people are capable of, I think, and also the responsibility we should be giving them in terms of future conservation work, future conservation projects, and that's something I want to touch on when I talk about the future. But the girls were legends. They just got stuck in at every stage. And I think sometimes we can be a bit overprotective, you know, and they were proper little explorers. They really went feral when they were out there. They went full Game of Thrones while they were out there, and it was glorious to see. Yeah. So, yeah, wonderful to see. And there's a great quote from Charles Darwin. It says, "Attitude is the difference between an ordeal and an adventure." The girls had an adventure out there because they were marinated themselves in the environment. Myself and Tam had a bit of an ordeal, but there we go. Right. Oh, and there's one thing that really sums it up for me, and about immersing themselves in the environment. How often do we do this, girls? Hey, 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 hey. A lot. There's one moment that really summed it up for me. How often do we do this as adults? That we were having breakfast on Isabella, and I looked around, and I was like, where's Moles? Moles are gone. And we were right by the sea, and I was like, oh my God, she's 3. And we stuck her head up over the sand dune, and she was on the beach in a little pink dress, just going crazy, just dancing on the beach. The wind, the waves, the isolation had just brought out this sort of animal in her, and she was just dancing and spinning around. And it was a lovely bit of footage. I said to the cameraman, quick, quick, quick. And he shot this bit of footage, which the commissioner from Channel 4 said was her favorite bit of footage for the whole of that year on Channel 4. So here we go.
I just glanced up, and there she was. That little scrap of nothing, on her own, in a world of her own, dancing on a beach as the surf crashed in behind her. I've seen it again and again with young people. I've experienced it again and again with young people. That you put them in an environment that is a little bit wild. You know, any forest, any beach, any coast, and regardless of where they come from, regardless of background, and regardless of upbringing, they come alive.
Right, that's the last bit of the kids, I promise. We now talk about sunfish, sharks, all that sort of stuff, with one exception. I just want to talk, there's a lovely poem that talks about a redhead in the sun. It says, this desert flame, this pixie in the sand, with dusty feet and painted skin, burning to the moon, with fire dancing from her wings, she dares the stars to fade, till the jealous sun will rise again to cool the heat she's made. That's a redhead in the sun. So, anyway, but of course we were there for the science. Isla, we were there for the science, we were there for the conservation work, we were there to find out about these islands. And we were lucky because we got involved in some really cutting-edge scientific projects. So I'm just going to talk briefly about those. Stop. One of the things we were doing was Mola Mola. Obviously, this is an oasis in the immensity of the Pacific, these volcanic peaks sticking through the top of the sea. And you get a lot of big animals there, particularly animals that like big currents. And Mola Mola there, they think it's a subspecies. So we latched onto that project. And the girl who was running the project, she said, okay, it's easy. We got a little boat. We go up to Mola Mola, and we take a DNA sample. And I was like, well, no animal likes having a DNA sample taken from it. How do we do it? She says, it's easy. You jump in, you grab it. They weigh 2.5 tons, these animals, 14 feet from fin tip to fin tip. And I was like, well, that's quite interesting. All right, we'll go for it. And she said, but their skin is very rough. So here, have these gloves. She gave me these red woolen gloves. And the first one we snuck up behind our little boat. And then we saw the big fin like that. And I jumped in, swam up behind it really quickly, went like that with my gloves. And it took off with my gloves stuck to it, basically. So even now, swimming around in the Galapagos, there's a giant ocean sunfish with 2 red handprints on it here. And basically, it dawned on me, I was like, she's never done this before. She's never done it. Maybe it's because of the cameras, it's a new technique, they're trying it out. So we found a slightly smaller one, and this is what happened with a slightly smaller one. I had another pair of red gloves, which you'll see me just throw into the boat. I get all cheesed off with it. So there we are. That's a giant ocean sunfish, basically. It's a very distinct action with the sunfish. It's this kind of waggling, gentle movement. It's because of the way they swim. They swim like that. Yeah, there you go. There's the sunfish. Do you see that big dorsal fin waving? That's big.
Es el mismo.
Oh, no. Wait. Go. Okay, go. 2 people who don't know what they're doing.
The team must work fast to minimize stress to the fish.
This amazing animal is the largest bony fish on Earth. Lays 300 million eggs. Robbie's about to take a skin sample. Extraordinary animals, and they're just immense. Its eye is right in front of me. I'm eye to eye with it.
Sunfish tagged and sample taken. It's time to let this giant go.
And off it goes.
Whoa! Mission accomplished. And Monty's bagged himself a whopper of a fisherman's tail.
When I first swam up to it, I was like, I'm not grabbing that. It's massive.
6 p.m. The show will be closing at 6 p.m.
Right, now, there's a danger of thinking the Galapagos, this isolated lump of rocks, this World Heritage Site, this safe haven for all animals, is absolutely fine. Of course it isn't. Like everywhere else in the world, a lot of impact through. Isla, don't, Isla. If you move it, no. If you move it, the connection. Right, don't. Leave it. Right. Anyone remember this? Have fond memories of this? Obviously they're under threat as well. And they're under threat from invasive species, the #1 threat to the Galapagos, invasive species. The other threat is obviously just poaching, essentially. While we were there, a Chinese fishing boat sailed right through the middle of the archipelago, just sweeping up sharks. World Heritage Site. Now, normally what they do is they have all the boats, the big boats and factory ships on the edge of the nature reserve, and they send dories in, because they go in under the radar. But this buffoon went right through the middle. And but happily, we were there, we managed to film it, and there was global outrage, essentially, at this. This is the last citadel for this animal, essentially. And I think it was a tipping point for the islands, actually. Oops, sorry, sweetheart. So, essentially, we wanted to go to Wolf and Darwin to tell the story of the sharks there. Now, Wolf and Darwin is 100 miles north of the Galapagos Islands. 100 miles north of the Galapagos Islands. So we chugged up there in the Queen Mabel, a boat called the Queen. Anyone been on the Queen Mabel? The Queen Mabel. Yeah, the Queen Mabel we call the unstable Queen Mabel, because she's got the highest superstructure imaginable of a boat, and you go a long way offshore. So you're about 50, 60 miles offshore when you're on your way to the islands, if you see what I mean, between the islands. And so we slept below decks, and all the crews slept above decks. They slept at the top. And when we got to the islands, I said, Wolf and Darwin, I said, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact you guys slept up top. And they went, oh, no, we don't sleep below. It's way too dangerous, you know, because it's like that. It's absolutely insane. And we had quite an interesting incident, actually. While we were heading there, we lost someone overboard. And someone just happened to glance back, and there was a head just disappearing, but a tiny speck. And that person would have been gone. They would have been gone. And when we turned around and got to them, they had dolphins all around them. It was quite interesting, the dolphins had appeared. But, you know, we're all trained about man overboard. What do? You throw something buoyant, don't you? You point and you shout, man overboard, skipper, man overboard. And you point at them And then as the boat comes around, you keep pointing. Yeah, great, and you get on the radio. Do you know what we did? Because it was real, a real situation. We're all trained. What we did was go, blimey, someone's fallen overboard. Look, I'm like, someone should be told. Surely someone should be told. There's someone in the water. They're over there and there's dolphins. Hey, look, there's dolphins. It's chaos, absolute chaos. It was really interesting for me, that. But got to Wolf and Darwin. Anyone dived Wolf and Darwin? Do it. It's bucket list material. It's hard. It's hard. You know when you're filming, you've got your camera and you've got these currents, just big currents. The whole time. I remember being down there like that, and I'm not the best on air. And I had my camera there, and I was holding it. And you know when your mask's vibrating, and everything's vibrating, it's going to, and bits of your kit are flying off. And I had my 2 strobes there, and I cranked them right down, and my 2 strobes went, and it hit me on the side of the head. So it's tough. You know, it's hard diving. It's really demanding. And I found it hard work. You know, 52 years old now. And it was proper like hairy-bummed, horny-palmed diving, really, hard graft. And this was my safety diver, Katie, who was miraculous there. But, you know, the old wetsuit sort of chafing on the neck because you're working so hard constantly. So it was hard graft, but we had a wonderful encounter right at the end, essentially. So we were trying to deploy tags on these animals. So I'll just show you a quick clip of the encounter at the end. And then, and that was the animal. The interesting part about it is they're pretty confident. It's one of the few places in the world where whale sharks pup, because 95% of the whale sharks that come through are very heavily pregnant. And I don't know if you saw at the dive show, the other dive show, they're doing ultrasound scans of the whale sharks as they go over the top of them. Yeah, and you've got like 30 seconds to do it, do this quick ultrasound scan in these huge currents with lots of big animals around you. It's like really cutting edge science. But this was it was the final dive that we finally got our whale shark, thank goodness. So here we go.
Numbers of these scalloped hammerheads have declined by 95% in just 30 years. They can swim at up to 30 miles an hour, a huge challenge for taggers on a single breath. Below them, a silky shark. Jeff shoots the tag. It doesn't stick.
That was a pretty appalling effort.
He has to surface for air. Try again. They've tagged fewer than 30 of these in 10 years of trying. At last, a tag sticks in one of the most important species here. The team are ecstatic. But Darwin has one last trick up its sleeve.
So it's basically a corridor that these animals follow.
A whale shark. They can grow 20 meters long, but much of their life is a mystery. No one's ever seen them mate or give birth, and we don't even know how many of them exist.
Now, the reason all that's important is the idea is to gather data to make sure the air is even more heavily protected, but also figure out this corridor that they're following, these pregnant females. It's kind of the real golden bullet of shark conservation. Where do whale sharks pup? It's a really, really important place. And so the lasting memories, obviously I can bang on about Galapagos forever, but the lasting memories are the work of the crew. The crew did absolutely outstandingly well. And also the next generation, the opportunity to see the islands through the eyes of the next generation. What happened with this show started out as a bit of frippery, a bit of light entertainment. And then as the edits came in, Channel 4 said, no, we need to listen more to what the kids are saying. It's a really powerful conservation film. It's become a really powerful conservation film. And that's what happened. So we put it out, and the response was absolutely amazing. So I'll show you a little highlights reel. It was narrated by Zoe Wanamaker, the sweariest woman I've ever heard in my life. And, but this is the little highlights reel with a bit of the social media feedback and all that. And then there's a last little message right at the end. So here we go.
Sparkles, lavender, jingles, and waddly.
This is the start, really. I think for me, of realising this is going to be an altogether different experience.
Does this sun go, Mum?
It is.
I don't want dinosaurs.
There is no greater explorer than a 5-year-old.
Look at this.
I found one! There's just so much wildlife around the beaches. I couldn't believe my eyes.
A day in the life of a green sea turtle.
How wonderful. I just wonder what Charles Darwin would have made of all this. You know, I think he would have been very, very happy on this boat.
All the rubbish. It's hurting the animals. It's stinking all the turtles. It's really bad.
Everything to do with human existence is here on this beach.
Buque con una capacidad de más de 2.000 toneladas, con 300 toneladas a bordo.
So you're leading the charge for the next generation.
We could say that all kids are.
That's really painful. Everyone around the world is now or never.
Whenever you're swimming with a shark, just be calm, okay? They can sometimes eat people, but they just spit them out.
Lovely. So the final thing is we're doing a lot of work around the world, you know, leading tours and things like that, and often young people are the ones that are really at the forefront of all this. I'm sure you all agree that the generation coming through know more about the environment and care more about it than we ever did. And it's happening on our watch. It's our generation that's created these tectonic changes in the environment. And I think it's really important to equip this next generation with the ability to run their own conservation projects. So we've come up with a concept called Leaderbox Planet that we drop off at a school or a youth club or a dive club or whatever, and it lets young people run a local conservation project. Now, we're working with the Durrell Wildlife and Conservation Trust on it. It's at its early stages, but I just think it's super important for us. It's a real responsibility to say, right, we're going to equip you to run conservation projects from a young age. And not just join a conservation group, here it is. You can run your own project within that. Media guidance, social media, health and safety, budgeting, it's all in the box, how to do it. So I'll just show you a quick video, and that was all spawned, the whole Leaderbox thing, by our experiences in the Galapagos. So we're launching it at the moment. Hopefully at the show next year, we'll be able to say, right, here it is, take it away for the young people. So here we go. So there we go. Okay, does anyone have any questions? We've got 12 seconds. Anyone got any questions? Well, if you want to have a chat, do come and see us on the stand. We're in the stand just by the door there. We're the only stand at the dive show that's selling a book about Hitler. So, from the series last year. So, there we go. But thank you very much for turning up. Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Monty Halls.
Mate.